Good Sunday morning and welcome to WGN-TV Political Report. I'm Paul Lisnick. We begin this morning at City Hall, where on Wednesday, 2 aldermen plan to introduce a resolution calling for new leadership at the CTA. Nearly 20 council members signed on to a non-binding resolution demanding that Dorval Carter resign from his $376,000 a year job as the CTA president. They say Carter has cut service, failed to hire enough rail operators, or address allegedly poor working conditions. Now, if Carter does not resign, alders are asking Mayor Johnson and Governor Pritzker to name a new president. Johnson has declined to say whether he thinks Carter should be fired. The governor, who doesn't have authority to make changes himself, has called for an evolution in leadership. The CTA issued a statement claiming the resolution contains inaccurate and misleading information and fails to recognize, and I quote, recent and significant accomplishments. Well, 32nd Ward Alderman Scott Waguespack joins me this morning in our WGN studios to talk about it. Alderman, good to see you again.
Happy Sunday to you and your audience.
Appreciate it. Always appreciate when you come in. So, look, strong calls to overhaul the CTA. Some people may not realize Carter has actually been there for a long time. He was a ROM appointee since 2016. So, what's gone wrong?
Well, I think when you look at this service prior to the pandemic, it wasn't too bad, but we still had a lot of issues with it. We were constantly looking for improvements in the way the whole system ran. When you hit with COVID, the pandemic comes in, we had asked for improvements during the pandemic to say, look, people still need to get to work. Post-pandemic, things went very much awry. And we were constantly trying to get Dorval Carter to the city council to say, how are we going to address these problems of public safety and crime, of cleanliness, of operations, both for the buses and the trains. And we weren't getting a response out of him. It really took a lot of teeth pulling to get him in front of the council to start addressing these questions.
Is he required to be there?
No, he actually wasn't. None of the sister agencies were. The last administration said the sister agencies are going to now start appearing in front of the council. But he pushed back very hard, and I think that started this process of why isn't leadership coming in front of the city council where we're the ones taking all the questions and the heat for the bad operations of the system.
It's sort of interesting, usually, one part of the city council gets mad or another part gets mad. But this time, 20 alders led by Andre Vasquez, formally calling for the resignation. But they're from all aspects. You've got, Daniel Laspada, on the progressive end, and Byron Sigcho Lopez. But you have Ray Lopez, and somewhere in the middle is Bill Conway. How has Carter managed to really tick off the entire spectrum?
Well, the mismanagement of the system affects every ward that has a person that takes a train or a bus. So that's who we're hearing from. And, we look at this and we say, why are other systems throughout the United States and other parts of the world improving post-COVID? And the CTA is just sort of limping along. It's not a good way to start it.
One of your colleagues suggested that this resolution is really just a political ploy. You're just trying to get, not you, but trying to gain political points. And the problem with the CTA may not be Carter and its leadership, but the system. What would a new leader bring to the game? What's your view?
Well, I think there's a lot of problems here. It's not just the new leader himself or herself that we would need to look at. And we really would have to do a nationwide or worldwide search for somebody who could come in and do this job in a better way. We're also looking at who is appointed to these boards that oversees the CTA or perhaps the RTA. Those are issues too. And I think what we're looking for is somebody who can bring this system into a modern era that it really deserves.
I imagine, I was also waiting for you to say, and responsiveness to city council.
Yeah, and I think that's very important. Somebody who believes in what they're doing. The fact that Dorval Carter was pushing back, and we've had very extensive conversations with him, laid out all the issues that we were hearing, and he said, well, what do you expect me to do? I expect you to show up. I expect you to answer the questions that anybody who is a rider or any taxpayer who pays into the system, every taxpayer actually pays to have a well-running CTA. And I think it behooves him or any leader to come in and make sure they have answers to the questions they're being asked.
In some ways, city council challenge to an appointee of a mayor, Daley, Emanuel, even Lightfoot. This is a very unusual thing. Johnson's favorability ratings hanging in the 20s or 30s, depending on what poll you look at.
Yeah.
Can we expect a vocal city council challenge to go after the mayor on this and other things?
Well, the pressure coming from the city council is on the mayor, but it's also been a little bit focused on the governor as well. The governor has
he can't change the job.
Neither one of them can do it unilaterally, but together they can. And I think you're going to start seeing pressure from the governor to say, look, we need new leadership in there. We need to start addressing the issue of the shortfall that's going to hit our transportation system here very quickly.
I'm going to switch topics a little bit, but related. The mayor also appointed Pastor Ira Acri to the RTA board. And in a meeting of the Transportation Committee on which you sit, you and Andre Vasquez spoke out quite loudly about this. I actually heard from viewers who saw what had happened, and they were a bit surprised. Talk about some of the surprising answers you got from the questions you were asking this mayoral appointee to a board he didn't seem to have a lot of knowledge in his fingertips.
Well, my first question was essentially, what did you talk to the mayor about? And his answer was, I haven't spoken to the mayor. And I cannot believe a mayor would allow somebody to be appointed to such a major organization without sitting down with that person and saying, here's my vision for how the CTA or the RTA is going to work. Here are the problems with it, and here's some solutions that I have. To not hear a single thing out of this administration, or to hear that they hadn't even met with him, is very appalling. And it shows that continual lack of ability to manage local government that we've been seeing for the last year. And it's very disturbing. The other questions I had were around fare integration, the RTA merger, the possibility of that.
Budget numbers, you asked about that.
The budget numbers are massive. So there is a $730+ million shortfall projected right now by the end of 2025. That number could grow to well over $1 billion. And to not hear Dorval Carter address it, to not hear this appointee address it, or the mayor address it is, again, you're looking at it thinking, who is going to step up to the plate here and start addressing this issue? And it falls on us to do that.
So you and Vasquez voted against him, but he still got out of committee. So what are people thinking?
Yeah, and he'll go in front of the full council. I'm assuming that most people are going to vote for the mayor's choice here. But I think a couple of us will push back on it and say, no, this is not appropriate to appoint somebody who hasn't even the fundamentals to be able to address the problems.
Well, City Council also gave the mayor another big desire of his, $1.25 billion with interest. That's going to actually cost the city $2.4 billion over 37 years. You voted against it.
I did.
What are your concerns?
Well, again, the finances don't add up. And this is a problem that we're seeing over and over again. If you're committing dollars that the city taxpayers don't have to programs like this, and you don't provide the ability to back it up, not only today when you vote on it, but 10, 15, 20 years from now, we see this consistently over the decades where one mayor commits us to, perhaps a parking meter deal type situation, and the impact is going to be felt for generations to come. That is the same thing I felt on that $1.25 billion deal.
The Bears, White Sox want city monies, public monies. You were chair of finance, so this is something that really falls in your bailiwick. Are the city's priorities such that they ought to be sending money in that direction when you have violence and CTA and other issues?
Absolutely not. And this was the issue that a lot of us have spoken about. I've put together a list of questions that the city has to answer related to the Park District. How is it that the Park District is not involved in this situation as well with the Bears? The mayor goes out, he co-opted himself with the Bears by saying, I'm committing several $billion to the Bears of taxpayer dollars to pay for this new stadium. We haven't even had the public conversation about it. So there are a lot of issues there. And again, when you kind of look at just the few things we've talked about, the CTA, the $730+ million, the $1.25 billion, an outlaying of several $1 billion to the Bears. Where is that all coming from? And are those actual priorities that we should or should not focus on?
All right, Alderman Scott Waguespack back in the 32nd Ward. As always, thank you for coming in, letting us know what's going on. We're out of time. All right, ask you about the rat pavement thing. We're going to take a quick break. Up next on WGN TV Political Report, we're sticking with City Hall. Marking 1 year in office, Mayor Brandon Johnson sat down with our Jewel Hillary to talk about the ups and downs of his time in office so far. And part of that conversation is coming up next. Stay with us.